actually plays the anthem before. Good morning, everyone. Let's join together and sing as we begin our service today. May nothing evil cross this door. Good morning. Welcome. It's good to be here with you. This is the First Unitarian Church. It's good to be back. For those of you who are new, my name is Tom Dishard, and I'm one of the ministers here, and I've been out on medical leave recovering from a hip replacement. It has gone well. Thank you for all of your good wishes, and it is so, so good to be back with you this morning. Thank you for the good wishes. Let's see. We are going to be welcoming a special guest pianist this morning. David Saffert currently serves as the principal accompanist of the Portland Gay Men's Chorus, and for the last 25 years has worked with numerous organizations around the country. David is likely most known as a professional Liberace impersonator in his nationally recognized duo. You might want to check out David's shoes this morning if you see him. He is part of a nationally recognized duo, Liberace and Liza, a tribute. His debut solo piano album, Stopping Time, is now available online. David, so good to have you here with us today. And so as we gather this morning, let's take a few moments to greet one another here in person and online. Let's greet our neighbors today. Ren is our chalice. Our chalice lighter today is Ren. Ren, do you want to join us? We are Unitarian Universalists. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
So we are going to begin with a metta sutta, which is a loving kindness meditation as a way into our call to worship this morning. So I invite everyone to breathe in a deep breath and to breathe out a deep breath together. And let's do one more. Let us cultivate boundless goodwill. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none in anger or ill will wish another harm. Even as a mother watches over her child, even as any parent or grandparent or guardian watches over their child, so with boundless mind should one cherish all living beings, radiating friendliness over the whole world, above, below, and all around without limit. And let's breathe in one more time together.
From a collection called The Mistakes That Made Us, Confessions from 20 Poets, selected by Irene Latham and Charles Waters, and illustrated by Merce Lopez, we have a reading for you from the wonderful Palestinian-American poet, Naomi Shihab Nye. I warn you that this tiny tale contains blood and blame. So beware and keep listening for the story that will come after the story.
This poem is called Pencil. First day of first grade. John at pencil sharpener, sharpening 10 pencils. We lined behind him to sharpen one each. On his 7th, I poked him in the back with my blunt nub. Isn't that enough? He fell forward, startled, slamming his nose on the pencil sharpener. Blood gushed over a pile of fresh paper on our teacher's shelf. Sorry, 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 sorry. I was herded to the coat closet. John scurried to the nurse. Teacher sent a note to my parents. This child carries the devil within her. Scary. My mother crying through our whole dinner. I didn't know who he was. The pencil resting on my desk, saying all year, I'm still here. Naomi Shihab Nye shares the following story about this poem. To be singled out as a bad girl on the very first day of first grade gave me a certain alien status in my classroom. This probably helped me in the bigger life picture because I started writing little poems in the margins of my papers. After presenting one as a peace offering to my teacher, she allowed me to pin it to the hallway bulletin board. An older girl read the poem, said, "I know what you mean," and my life as a poet began.
It's time for the learning community students and teachers and advisors and leaders to leave for our religious education program that happens next door. I want to extend an invitation to any new families with young people to meet me in the lobby, and I would love to escort you so that you know where to go and what to do. And a special note, if you have a kindergarten or first grade student, if you will please come with us, we have a form for you to sign, and then we'll get you back into the sanctuary promptly. And now let us all together sing our hymn of blessing.
I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and to join in our responsive reading. The words are by Reinhold Niebuhr. We must be saved. Nothing worth doing is completed in our lifetime. Therefore, we are saved by hope. Nothing true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in any immediate context of history. Therefore, we are saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we are saved by love. No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as from our own. Therefore, we are saved by the final form of love, which is forgiveness. You may be seated.
Once again, welcome everyone here this morning. If you're new among us, there will be a welcome circle right after the service. In this circle over here to my left, we'd love to meet you and see what questions you have about First Unitarian and how you might get involved. There are lots of ways to do that. One thing I'd suggest, if you haven't already signed up for our weekly electronic newsletter to learn more about what's happening here, you can do that at the welcome desk out in the lobby, or you can do that as part of the welcome circle. We are an active church, and there's a lot happening throughout the week. A couple things of note. Once again, this Wednesday afternoon, our congregation will take part in an interfaith vigil outside of the ICE building on South Macadam. These neighbor-to-neighbor interfaith witness events at ICE offer an opportunity to be with others in other faith communities, to be in solidarity, declaring our moral outrage at the cruel practices of abducting community members, terrorizing communities, and separating families in the name of an inhumane political agenda. Those happen on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. You can learn more in our e-news. And something in these days to uplift and sustain your spirit. Beginning later this month, there will be a series of vigils to help us through these challenging times. If you've been struggling to cope with the daily news and events lately, join a group of our spiritual directors here at the church for a quiet service of music, poetry, readings, and reflection and meditation. Those will be offered on Zoom on the fourth Tuesday of the month, beginning February 24th at 5:30. You can find a link to that in this week's e-news, and those will be happening through June, so check those out. And now it's time for our weekly offering. It's our custom here at First Unitarian to share our plate with an organization that is in concert with our own church mission. This month of February, we're sharing our plate with Lift Up. Lift Up's mission is to reduce hunger and improve the lives of low-income residents of Northwest and downtown Portland. Lift Up firmly believes that food is a fundamental human right, not a privilege, and that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, deserves access to quality, nourishing food. Lift Up sees food scarcity as a comprehensive issue, one that extends beyond meeting basic survival needs to encompass fulfilling nutritional, cultural, and familiar needs with dignity, choice, and abundance. Our Committee on Hunger and Homelessness continues to support Lift Up by doing food drives here in our community. If you'd like to give and you are here in person, our ushers will come by shortly to accept your gift. You can also turn to the green card holders in your seat. And whether you're online or in person, you can scan the QR code, and that will be a way to give. And if you're online, you can donate through the donate button on Boxcast. Thank you for your generosity that sustains this congregation and our partners in the larger community. We'll now gratefully receive our offering. We take time in our service each week to name the milestones and concerns of our community. If you have a prayer request for our ministers and lay ministers to hold, or a milestone you'd like to be mentioned here in a Sunday service, you can go to our church website and search for pastoral care. You can also use the tiny URL shown at the bottom of our screen and fill that out. Both of those methods will bring up a little form for you to fill out that will automatically go to our ministers and our lay ministers. And if you're here in person and would like to light a candle in either of our side galleries, in either direction, you can do that, and you can write down your intention to be held by our ministers and lay ministers through the week. This morning, we hold Jen Thomas, our Director of Congregational Life, and her husband, Steve. Steve's mother, Rita Margaret Thomas, died yesterday at the age of 96 after suffering a stroke on December 24th. Her family, Steve and Jen, ask to be held in our prayers during this time of loss. Will you join me now in a spirit of prayer and meditation? Spirit of life and of love, God of many names and no name, hear our prayers. May we begin, Spirit, in gratitude for this day, for our lives, for this community that brings us together. We make space here to bear witness to the personal passages we mark, those named and so many unnamed in our coming together. We make space to recognize the fullness of the world we live in, the beauty that manifests in so many ways, in this time when we note the beginning signs of a new season as life emerges out of the cold and the dark. And we recognize, too, all the brokenness in our world, in the cruelty that happens in so many forms. Help us to bear witness to those most impacted by that cruelty. And help us to imagine how the world might be a little kinder, a little more compassionate, a little more forgiving. On this Valentine's Day weekend, a little more loving. Help us to imagine how we might be part of that love in our lives. Help us to make all of that so as we recognize our interdependence, as we recognize our own capacity to make love manifest around us. Bless us in our living. Bless us in our striving. Blessed be, and amen. Let's take a few moments now and be together in silence. And I invite you now to rise in body and in spirit as we sing our doxology, Spirit of Life. Our reading today is by Jane Hirschfield, To Be a Person. To be a person is an untenable proposition, odd of proportion, upright, unbalanced of body, feeling, and mind. Two predators' eyes face forward, yet seem always to be trying to look back. Unhooved, untaloned fingers seem to grasp mostly grief and pain, to create too often mostly grief and pain. Some take in witness suffering pleasure, some make of witness suffering beauty. On the other side, a creature capable of blushing, who chooses to spin until dizzy, likes what is shiny, demands to stay awake even when sleepy, learns what is basic, what acid, what are stomata, nuclei, jokes, which birds are flightless, learns to play four-handed piano, to play when it is needed, one-handed piano, hums, feeds strays, says, all together now on three. To be a person may be impossible then, after all, or the question may be considered still at least open, an unused drawer, a pair of waiting work boots.
David, what a treat to be with you and to translate. You may know this, but you may not, that this means you inspired the warmth of community. That's what, right? I thought you might not know. That's what that means to us. So you're getting claps because of our elation at your being here, and you're getting the warmth of community from us. And I'll just say what a treat it is. I've gotten to see David in PGMC performances, but also David is the accompanist at my child's school for their performances. So today we're talking about weaving words that heal, and in real time I saw some maybe nonviolent communication going on between my spouse and my child, who did not want to leave the room that you were playing piano in. I enjoyed that. Namaste. The divinity inside me greets the divinity inside you. This is the customary greeting that is offered to us in the Hindu tradition. Can we offer that to one another? Could I invite you to turn to a neighbor and to express namaste? Varun Sunny, the Dean of Religious Life at the University of Southern California, explains that this meaningful greeting is connected to the sacred text, the Rig Veda, which includes a verse that says, "God is one, but the wise call God by many names," or "Truth is one, but the wise call truth by many names." We Unitarian Universalists share in a resonant belief and practice. We recognize and speak of the divine spark in all of us, and we too recognize that there are many paths to God or what is true, including within. Our practice is our first principle. We covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. There are many ways to engage in this practice. One way is when our volunteers open our doors to houseless neighbors in need of a shower, and maybe even more in need of human kindness, compassion, and connection. Every Wednesday and Thursday, we are essentially bowing to the divinity in each. Here is your towel. There is your shower. And there are clean clothes for you to choose from. And when we recognize our common divinity, by doing so, we also recognize our common humanity. We all have needs: water, and a feeling of being connected to others. These are our most basic needs. It reminds me of a Jewish story which comes from Midrash, the ancient oral tradition of rabbinical stories that shed light on the Torah, about Moses and a lamb, which is an animal that often serves as proxy for humans in the Bible, both the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. This story comes from Exodus Rabbah 2. Once, while Moses was tending to Jethro's sheep, one of the sheep ran away. Moses ran after it until the sheep reached a small, shaded area. In that spot, the lamb came across a pool of water and began to drink. Moses approached the lamb and said, "I didn't know that you ran away because you were thirsty. You must be exhausted." And then Moses picked up that lamb and carried him back on his shoulders. In the story, God is moved by Moses' tender care, love, and compassion to choose him as a leader of a people. In the Torah, it is on his way to finding the lost sheep that Moses encounters God in the burning bush. What we learn, putting the two together, the Midrash and the Torah, is that Moses' humility and compassion are the way to encounter God and also the pathway to leadership. In the Hebrew Bible, the word for compassion is raham, which Rabbi Danya Rutenberg offers the following about. The word raham shares the same root as rechem, which means the womb. This invokes the idea that compassion can be equated with the tender love a parent feels for a child, or, as others might suggest, the feeling we would have for a sibling with whom we shared a womb. Compassion invites us to see ourselves as one great human family. As William Ellery Channing, the founder, in many ways, one of our spiritual forefathers who first used the word Unitarian, said, "I am a great part of the living family of all souls." Buddhism and the practices of loving kindness meditations, metta meditations, also invoke similar images of alleviating suffering and caring for the well-being of ourselves and others, just as a parent would care for their child. Instead of a divine spark, Buddhists speak of the Buddha nature within, the part of us that is inherent, which can attain enlightenment through practices of mindfulness and compassion in order to counter what is also present within, such as our negative attachments to aspects of ourselves, like our ego. In many ways, all of these diverse understandings point towards compassion as a kind of ultimate spiritual practice, which offers the grounding for an individual and for collective leadership that will lead to peace in the heart, in the home, in the neighborhood, the nation, and the world. Something we so desperately need in these tumultuous times. In order to create peace within ourselves and rippling out in the world, we are called to remember what it means to be human. That while we can be frail, vulnerable, forgetful, tempted, misguided, uncharitable, violent, we can also be and become strong, mindful, compassionate, loving, giving, fierce, faithful, and gentle with practice. In this month, when we are approaching the theme of forgiveness, one way that we can practice is through what is called nonviolent or compassionate communication as conflict arises in our homes or our neighborhoods, in our congregations or at school or at work, or in other communities and relationships in our lives. And I'm going to share two sources of wisdom for mindful communication. The first is from the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, and then from psychologist Marshall Rosenberg. Here is some of Thich Nhat Hanh's guidance on right and loving speech. He shares 4 bodhisattva guidelines pertaining to right speech. Tell the truth. Don't exaggerate. Be consistent. No doublespeak. Use peaceful language. Don't use insulting or violent words, cruel speech, verbal abuse, or condemnation. How about that note home about Naomi Shihab Nye on her first day of first grade? I see the devil in this child. And of course, In this context, in a Unitarian Universalist context, we laughed because for us, the idea of a devil being in a first grader is preposterous. But I can see in the story, it had an ominous tone and an impact on her mother and on Naomi Shihab Nye. Thich Nhat Hanh also offers 6 mantras that we can use to promote loving speech. First, to really be present, to check ourselves and notice, am I present fully? Especially if I'm trying to be present for another person. So the first mantra is, I am here for you. I am here with you. The second mantra, not just being aware of myself, but being fully aware of the other person. I know you are there. I am with you. The third mantra, I know you suffer, and that is why I am here for you and with you. And the fourth mantra, and I'm going to open this one up because this is part of learning the practice, is learning how to communicate ourselves and then drawing that communication out of others. I suffer. Please help. I suffer. I don't understand why you did what you did. Please explain. I need your help. When we are with people that we love or care about, it is easy to share our joy or our good feelings, but we also need to have the courage to share our suffering and our anger. So Thich Nhat Hanh suggests saying to a good friend or a romantic partner, darling, I am angry at you. I suffer, and I need you to know. To say it peacefully, not to punish or blame. And maybe you can't say that peacefully right away, depending upon the context. And so to go back to that first part, to be able to be mindful and present, maybe that means deep breaths, walking outdoors. Maybe it means writing it down in what Thich Nhat Hanh calls a peace note. And here is his example. Darling, I suffer, and I want you to know it. I am doing my best. I'm trying not to blame anyone else, including you. Since we are so close to each other, since we have made a commitment to each other, I feel that I need your support and your help to get out of this state of suffering or anger. Now, I want to just confess that every time that I have an argument with a close friend or my spouse, I don't think, oh, Thich Nhat Hanh says to write a peace note. What did he say to write exactly and to do this? But what I will say is that practicing over time, the language and the practices return to us more quickly and more fully. When the other person receives a message that is communicated through loving speech, they will be more inspired to join you as a co-practitioner in that practice of mutual respect, of deep listening. And that can be the true foundation of a love that can hold sorrow, confusion, anger, as well as joy and bliss and peace. So when we achieve that, he says the fifth mantra is to remind ourselves this is a happy moment. If we're able to express our suffering or our anger through loving speech, and we're able to listen and understand the pathway out, it is a happy moment. And the sixth mantra is you are partly right. So if you're speaking to someone and what they return is something like, oh, I really appreciate how you came to me today, naming your anger in a way that I could help you so calmly. Then you can say back to them, you're partly right. I'm able to do that sometimes. And if they come to you speaking harshly or with condemnation, Naomi Shihab Nye, if she was older than a first grader, could have said, you're only partly right. I have the devil in me some days, but I have other positive qualities as well. It reminds all of us that we are capable of, as I have said throughout this month of forgiveness, hitting the mark of love and missing the mark of love. Marshall Rosenberg is a psychologist who is deeply inspired by Buddhist practitioners and also by what he learned through his practice of psychology. And he created a practice called nonviolent communication that has helped many individuals, families, communities, and even at times warring factions to recognize one another's common humanity and to find a common ground to negotiate an end to conflict and the beginning of peace. Initially, he wanted to research the following. Why do some people act with violence and or exploit others? What kind of education would promote compassionate behavior, which Rosenberg views as central to human nature, even when we are behaving otherwise? And why some people actually seem to enjoy other people's suffering, while others enjoy contributing to the well-being of all. And he discovered that there were 3 factors that influence whether we can be compassionate or not. 1, the language that we have been educated to use. 2, how we have been taught to think and communicate. And 3, the specific strategies that we have learned to influence others and ourselves. And the method that he developed is also sometimes called nonviolent assertive communication. It isn't about creating peace at the expense of needs. It's about navigating conflict in healthy ways that points towards addressing the needs of everyone. And there are 4 steps to this compassionate communication practice. And by the way, this is not an appropriate tool for every situation, and I'll say more about that at the end. So the first step is observation. The second is feelings. The third is needs, and the fourth is requests. And I'm going to break that down. So first, we observe what is happening. We observe what someone is saying or doing that is either actually giving rise to more joy, is enriching our life, is contributing to it, or is maybe doing the opposite, causing us sadness or not enriching our life. But the trick is to be able to do this without introducing judgment or evaluation, which is something that Thich Nhat Hanh also spoke about. It's not simply to say what people are doing that we either like or don't like. Second, we state how we feel when we observe this action. Are we hurt, scared, joyful, amused, irritated? Often people who are not used to this kind of communication struggle to name their feelings. And so that can become a significant part of the practice, just being in touch. If you grew up with someone whose anger was very disproportionate or frightening, you might not hear anger in yourself because you are so busy distancing yourself from something that felt unsafe. But anger and all kinds of feelings arise which are healthy and natural, and there are ways to express them that are healthy. For example, and third, we say what needs of ours are connected to that feeling that we've identified. So again, we observe non-judgmentally, we share our feelings, and then we share our needs. For example, and I'm sure this only has ever happened in my home, someone that you love might be staring at their phone while you're speaking to them. These days, someone that you love, a good friend, even at a restaurant might be staring at their phone while they're speaking to you, while you're speaking to them. So you would practice, Robin, let's say, when you are staring at your phone while I am speaking, maybe you feel sad or angry or hurt because I have a need for respect, mutual respect, or maybe I have a need to be valued. Or maybe I simply have a need to know that I have your attention. And then this is really important for the nonviolent communication. It is the fourth component, which is the request, a very specific request. So you might say, would you be willing to put your phone down while we are talking? And the fourth component addresses what we are wanting from the other person that would make life more enriching, peaceful, and joyful. It is not a nonviolent communication model to say, you never listen to me when I speak to you. In fact, when they're looking down at their phone, maybe they are listening to you. Maybe they're looking up something about what you're talking about. And so they might just respond, yes, I do. I can look at my phone and hear you at the same time. Again, I'm sure that's never happened in any household besides mine. The other aspect of this communication consists of receiving the same 4 pieces of information from others. And if they don't have practice with this, you might help them draw that out of themselves. We connect with them when that's the case by sensing what might be upsetting them, what they might be observing or feeling and needing, and then working with them to discover what would their request be, that 4th piece. As we keep our attention focused on these 4 areas and help others, we create a flow of communication back and forth until compassion begins to manifest. What I am observing, feeling, and needing, and what I am requesting to enrich my life, and what you are observing, feeling, and needing, and what you are requesting to enrich your life. Nonviolent communications practices that support conflict resolution involve expressing our own needs, sensing the needs of others, regardless of how others are expressing themselves. When the lamb ran away, Moses could have yelled at the lamb, but instead waited to see what did run away mean, not a rejection, but a thirst. Checking in to see whether we're perceiving needs accurately and feelings accurately, and providing empathy, being present with their suffering, and then translating solutions or strategies into positive action language. Now, on one hand, these practices can seem so simple. On the other hand, we are living in a season where this type of communication can seem impossible, and division and cutting others out of our lives the answer. Now, I'll name. I don't have any family members who are ICE agents, but if I did, I don't know that I would stay in relationship with them at this time. Sometimes forgiveness is about leaving a relationship that is repetitively abusive or harmful and forgiving yourself for any guilt that might linger. There might be other people who do feel ready to broach that divide, to engage in a serious practice around what that person is trying to, what need or feelings that person is trying to address. Ultimately, nonviolent communication takes a willingness for people on both sides to come together, to listen, and to be invested in an outcome that serves the well-being of all. When that is not the basis, then nonviolent communication and compassionate communication may not be possible. Yet there are those deep practitioners who have been engaged with their whole lives in cultivating compassion, such as the Buddhist monks who trekked 2,300 miles from their temple in Fort Worth, beginning in October, a 108-day walk for peace from Texas to Washington, D.C., which just was completed this very week. It is no wonder that they were drawn to engage in public witness, to promote healing, unity, and compassion at this time. Remember that the actions of a few can lead to a tipping point, to large-scale shifts. And this is something that the monk's leader, the Venerable Bhikkhu Panakara, shared. In front of you all, you can see all religions' leaders here together for the same mission, peace. This is the first time to me that we are working together. We are walking together on this path to find peace for ourselves and to share that with our nation and our world. And he also spoke about how he wasn't there. None of the monks, the 19 monks, were there to essentially give peace to others, but rather to inspire others through that compassionate walk to liberate the peace that we have in our own hearts. And if you saw the images coming out over these last weeks, behind the 19 monks were just hundreds of people yearning to be present to that level of steadfast commitment to peace. There was so many people that were drawn to the light within these monks. And in fact, early on in the walk, and you may have seen this as well, a car wound up plowing into them in Texas, and the monk who ultimately lost his leg from that accident offered forgiveness to the person who was the driver of that vehicle. Again, this is a practice of a lifetime that that monk has been engaged in. It is not so easy to get there, but a place to begin is with the people that you love. If you practice nonviolent communication and compassionate communication and grow that capacity in your heart with those you love, then you can broach the stranger, someone that you might identify as a foe, and so on and so forth. Now, another piece about nonviolent non-cooperation that inspires me right now is that if we get 3.5% of the population to counter the violent, exploitative policies of our current administration, we have been told in all of the workshops recently, that is what it takes to end tyranny, 3.5%. So to become part of that 3.5%, we also need to practice navigating conflict with people with whom we largely agree. So this practice is perfect for us to begin. And what I'm also seeing in the news at times is the left fighting each other. So what would it look like to cross the distance of our neighbors who are in our homes and in our lives? Remember, we who believe that ultimately our fates are intertwined can join in a communion of struggle and peaceful navigation of conflict that begins with us. For ultimately, God, Gaia, love, compassion is as close to us as our very own breath. Let us begin with words that heal in a time of so many words that harm. Let us begin with ourselves, with our close relations, then let us expand outward from there. Imagine if there are enough of us, 3.5% of us in this country, that learn how to treat our neighbors as worthy of mutual respect, our neighbors as people who deserve mutual care, our neighbors as people with whom we can come up with creative, compassionate requests that will lead us towards peace, then we can change our nation and ultimately move the world towards greater peace. May it begin this day. May it begin with you. Amen, and blessed be, and may it be so. Let us rise and sing together, "Break Not the Circle." I'll share one more tip that the Buddhist leader said, in case it's helpful to you, not to begin your day by looking at your phone. He had some humorous, wonderful tips for all of us. And now, in our going, may the light of love and compassion bless us and keep us. May it shine down upon us. May it be gracious unto us. And may it make each one of us builders of peace in the heart and peace in the nation. For this is the day that you and I are given, so let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go in love. Go in peace and go in love. Practice love. Amen.